funk? Yeah.
All right, what's up, everyone? Kevin Allen here from DFS Army. You guys know me as the Geek, and we are doing our NFL Week 14 weekend review. We're going to do a cash game lineup review, kind of see what works and what didn't, as we do every week. I'm going to look at some tournament strategies, and I'm actually going to show you a little research tool I use for mass multi-entry GPP that will clarify, I think, some things for a lot of you guys in terms of just expectations and everything. Now, that tool is not owned by DFS Army, so I'm gonna, it's something I use, and it's really, really important for me. As part of kind of the goal of teaching everybody how to become better DFS players in general, how to be more profitable, show you kind of the things that I do when I'm obsessing over something. I'm obsessed over DFS and becoming better at it every day. And these are the tools that I use, and I'm going to show you a little bit of that to clarify. Now, the first thing I want to show you before all of that, because we got to do some really good positive stuff, is 2 DFS Army members in the top 10 of the DraftKings Millie Maker this week. Guys, that is not normal. 2 subscribers hit top 10 lineups, and possibly on a one-off lineup, which is even more impressive. So, first of all, big congratulations to Decuz for taking 4th place in the Millie Maker this week. We were all watching along towards the end. Single bullet lineup, it looks like. He does not have a little number next to it, so that might be the only one he put in here. This incredible lineup built around Aaron Rodgers, Henry, a little bit of chalk here, right? Went with Brandon Ayuk, who's been smashing, a beautiful pivot, and this is just the genius of this lineup. The pivot, everybody's going to play Rodgers, Adams, right? And you had to make a choice between Rodgers and Davante Adams or Henry. You couldn't have both. So in brilliant fashion, the Cuz said, well, listen, I can't, everybody's going to play Rodgers Adams. He played Rodgers Scantling. Tunyon. Oh my God. Fucking Tunyon in the flex. Or let's call it Kelsey in the flex and really Tunyon. So it was a Rodgers, Scantling, Tunyon stack. And the rest was pretty chalky. Cowboys defense. Travis Kelsey, everybody liked him. Chad Hansen, Chad Hansen, who is mentioned in my notes this week and in my late note, and Brandon Ayuk, who's been smashing every week, but for whatever reason, no one ever owns him. So really, really great lineup. I love this stuff, by the way, and I'm reading your comments as well, but I want to congratulate Decuz on this 50K lineup here. What was amazing was he was in about 7th or 8th place for 15,000. One last reception at the end of the game for Brandon Ayuk, and it was a $35,000 reception. I fucking love that. Wish he had one more catch. Could have gotten up here. It would, a touchdown. He had a real shot at $1 million. So very, very well done, Decuz. And I can't not acknowledge Simon Templar, my dude, who lineup number 2. I don't know how many lineups he put in, but it could have been just 2 here, but hit 9th place with lineup number 2 in a very similar lineup with Rodgers, Tunyon in a stack, Henry. So no, the point of this lineup here was not using Davante Adams with Rodgers because everybody would. It worked out pretty well. Rodgers put up a nice score, able to get Henry, Montgomery. Nelson Aguilar was a little bit off the beaten path in this one. Yeah, I mean, I love, and so I just wanted to mention these 2 guys. Really, really great stuff. Of course, we had another member last night take down 20K in the showdown, but that's just old hat. That's just every showdown, somebody's doing that. So doing stuff, congrats to you as well. Now, I wanted to also show the notes I put up last week or this Sunday morning to kind of give you an idea of what we were talking about and what we were on. I usually get a little bit of a cash focus in my Sunday notes. So, on my Sunday notes, I wrote very tricky week. We didn't get a ton of news that changed up the slate. We actually, I think this was maybe before. I can't remember if the Ron Jones Jr. thing happened before or after this. Oh, Burns called Aguilar. There you go. Because I saw a few Aguilar lineups. I was wondering about that. All right. So QB this week, cash games for me. The choice to pay up was Rodgers and Mahomes. I think that was the right call. I ended up playing Aaron Rodgers. Most of us did. Mahomes didn't do quite as well, but he put up his numbers. I said if you're paying down, Teddy Bridgewater would have been the play. And Teddy Bridgewater actually had a fine game as well, 20 points. And he would have been a part of a really, really solid cash lineup if you used him. So all of these really worked. I'm still favoring paying up for one of Rodgers and likely to lock in the points. So again, most everybody paid up for Rodgers in cash, and you could see he was 40 or 50% owned, and he was on the chalkboard as the top play. Talked a little bit about running back in the notes, and some Henry's the top play, we said, and of course he smashed. So hopefully people followed that. On the chalkboard was Henry, McKissick, and Eckler. And here's another thing. The top three on the chalkboard. Eckler puts up 23. Henry, if you played this trio, you did really well. Yeah, here we go. He played Teddy and cash. So all of those pathways really worked out. If you played this trio, you probably cashed this week. And I made arguments for, like I said, Eckler, Montgomery, Ron Jones Jr., even Zeke and Swift. Of all of this group, only Zeke and really Swift. Swift didn't even really fail. Only Zeke failed. So pretty good group. Now, McKissick was one of those. It didn't do that bad. He got 9 points. But McKissick was one of those obvious ones that was like obvious fade the chalk situation. I wanted to fade it, and I made some mistakes in my cash lineup that I'm sick over because the Ron Jones Jr. pivot really threw me off late. And, part of that is doing what I do, which is answering a billion questions and trying to scramble around on Sundays with all the stuff that's coming at me as part of the DFS Army duties, and also trying to work lineups. You guys think it's easy. It's not, but there's a lot coming at me. And, I'll go over my error in a minute. But I just wanted to go over the notes here because the notes were really strong. Here we go. This was the Ron Jones Jr. information that came in after the notes. And that's kind of what caused me to pivot and kind of threw me off a little bit. Because I got to get Ron Jones Jr. in there. All right. Wide receiver, Adams, top play. But we talked about the Panthers duo of Samuel and Anderson. Robbie Anderson without DJ Moore. Those two were very popular, and they both hit the numbers that they needed to in cash. They were both very, very strong cash plays. Other potential cash punt options, we talked about Berrios, who was kind of popular, Bashard Perriman, Gallup, and Chad Hansen. Most of these didn't work out. Chad Hansen did all right. And the regret I have is the one that I was thinking about was Gage from Atlanta. I don't know why I slipped my mind for Chad Hansen. Gage was right there. This is a good question about paying up for Kelsey. I never do it in cash, or almost never, but not on DraftKings. On FanDuel, I always do. But on DraftKings, I rarely do it. But he could be played in the flex. He could be played in the flex. Kelsey has been as good or better than any wide receiver in his price range anyway. So I just wanted to point out the notes from Sunday morning, what got us on the right thing. And finally, we're going to take a look at the Chalkboard, which is one of the tools we have over at DFS Army to help identify what are the best cash plays. Because in cash games, we want chalk. We want the safety of chalk, but maybe get off some bad chalk once in a while if we can. And that's the trick with cash games. Look for who's the chalk, and is there a bad chalk in there? If there is, let's try to jump off of it. So again, at quarterback on the chalkboard, we had our top ownerships were Rodgers and Mahomes. Obviously, these were the guys we recommended, and I ended up playing Aaron Rodgers. He was the most popular. That 600 really meant a lot, and there was really nothing to gain going up to Mahomes from Rodgers. So that worked out pretty well. If you take a look at the RBs on the top of the chalkboard, it was Henry, McKissick, Eckler, and Montgomery. So that grouping was a very strong grouping. It didn't matter which of these four you played. If you played, these four, you did pretty well. Montgomery, Eckler, great. Henry, great. McKissick was a pay down, very high owned in cash, and he didn't kill you. I didn't like the McKissick play, but I played him. I held my nose. I talked about I don't like using a lot of players against San Francisco. It didn't look like a spot where he had any ceiling, but you held your nose and you played him. At wide receiver, if you follow the chalkboard here, you've got Devontae, Tyreek, smash. Perriman was up there. He did not do anything. Samuel Anderson, smash. So the top of the group looks like 4 of the 5 wide receivers at the top of the group did really, really well. Allen Robinson's here on the list, but you had some fails here as well. Corey Davis did not do much at all. And at tight end, the top 3, I mean, again, the smashes at the chalkboard. Kelsey, smash. Logan Thomas did great for his salary, and Robert Tonyan did great as well for his salary. So, a lot of this stuff was right in front of us. Again, 2 defenses, Seattle and Cowboys, both of them smashed. So the tools were pointing everybody in the right direction. One of the challenges this week in cash games was, do we play? It was very difficult to make a lineup with both Devontae Adams and Derrick Henry together in the same lineup. It could have been done, but in order to do it, you had to play like a few Braxton Berrios type plays. You had to really sacrifice some other spots, or you had to do the pay down at quarterback to make it work. In hindsight, probably the pay down at quarterback maybe was the move in cash games, but I didn't do it. So real quick notes here, and then I'm going to get into what I do for tournament study after the fact, which I really want you guys to start doing as well. So taking a look at the cash lineup, I wound up with a shitty lineup. I made a big mistake. It's one error in the entire lineup, and it cost me. And the error was getting cute. And this is a lesson in don't get cute in cash. I'm going to bring up. It's tough. The minute I bring up the lineup, I lose this screen. So I wanted to, before I even do that, I want to kind of show you guys what happens in cash. My cash lineup scored 136. It really should have been 157, but it was 136. And that was not good enough to hit the cash lines and double ups. But the reason I'm showing this is because look at the head-to-heads. Even when you miss the cash line significantly in double ups, when you play head-to-heads, you cash a lot of your lineups. You still don't lose them all. So this is the reason why I talk all the time about why it's so important to focus on head-to-heads. There is a floor in head-to-head in the fact that you're playing against random other people, and they suck too. So a lot of times you're going to win some or lose some against these guys based on, on the curve, on the probability curve of mean distribution. So, even though my lineup was well below what the cash line was this week, and it was not good, only scoring 136.5 points. It still cashed a ton of head-to-heads. It still cashed a lot of head-to-heads. Now, it's not 50%, but somewhere about 38, 40% head-to-head. So it wasn't a total loss in head-to-head, even when you miss it. And that's the beautiful thing. Let's see what our boy Pimple Popper MD, who I always like to go up against, see what he's up to. He put up a monster cash game score. And let's see what he did. So Pimple Popper figured out how to squeeze Henry and Adams into the same lineup, along with Eckler. So he went all in. He played DeAndre Washington, saved a little money there, and then played 2 punts at wide receiver. Hansen, who we mentioned, and Perriman. Perriman was a miss. Now, all right, so here we go. You're mentioning this, so I want to go into head-to-heads a little bit more. A lot of people don't play head-to-head because A, they think it's sharks that are playing it, or B, they believe that they were in a head-to-head once, they scored pretty well, but they lost, so why would I ever do that again? You don't understand that the most important part of your head-to-head lineups is limiting the lineup to just one opponent. So you want a variety of opponents. That's the most important. And if you create them, which you can, you don't have to bum hunt. If you create them on DraftKings, the most important thing is to set the number of times an opponent is allowed to take your head-to-heads to just one. So there are not a lot of sharks out there, man. Monkey 600, you're wrong. What's happening is, number one, sharks are not allowed to play on DraftKings in any game that's below $5. So the first thing is to understand is, no, I can't play in $1 or $3 games. They don't even show up on my screen. They're eliminated for anybody who's played the amount of value, for example, that I've played. So most of the sharks are essentially priced out of the ability to play $1 or $3 head-to-heads. Number two, yeah, FanDuel is different. FanDuel is more challenging. They're really the challenge of FanDuel is you got to really pick your head-to-head opponents. But the real challenge of FanDuel is you can't limit your opponent to just one. That's much worse for me. I just want a variety of opponents. I'm not worried about sharks or whatever. I just want a variety. But on FanDuel, there's no restriction for playing at any price level. So yeah, it's different there. DraftKings, though, you can limit your opponents to one, and you can also play below the price point of where sharks are allowed to play. So it is very different between the two sites. Now, again, on FanDuel, a lot of sharks don't really play a lot of cash on FanDuel because it's much less predictable. You'll see them more on DraftKings. Yeah, Cedric Wilson, your cash was 160. That was plenty to smash this week. So the cash line, the cash, I think I don't know, Jesse. You got to play on what you're more comfortable on. I think FanDuel is designed to be a little bit easier for noobs to win. But DraftKings is designed for sharper players like people who have DFS Army tools to be able to win. So I think sharper is better because we have sharp tools at our disposal that most people don't have. So now, a lot of people have tools and they have great tools, other sites, whatever, but they're not teaching this stuff to their members. So I think we have sharper tools, and I would rather play here. Now, one of the things I wanted to show is the Domination Station and what it was basically spitting out. I mean, 223, a guy in your group would have won the Millie Maker. Head-to-heads sounds like it decays, but I don't know. Guys, I really don't play much head-to-head, or I don't play much cash on FanDuel. I find it more difficult to make lineups. You know, I don't know. I should try. I haven't really tried that much over there. So I want to show you another thing here. What lineup was being spit out by the Domination Station? Now, one of the things I told you guys to do, I actually channel tagged it, was to smash an Enrage on Duke Johnson. I'm just not playing Duke Johnson, so he always projects well. He's going to get all the carries or whatever. But I didn't like the projection at all. So I basically channel tag like smack an Enrage on Duke just to make sure he's not, flooding your lineups this week because he was projected really high. He's going to get all the carries in Chicago, whatever, but I didn't like the offense at all. So that wasn't going to be, and he had no chalk to him. So I smashed a dislike. And when you did that, let's take a look at the top lineup that the Domination Station just kicked out. So what did you get? Got Ron Jones, McKissick, Rodgers, Kuti, who put up 20, Curtis Samuel put up 17, Robbie Anderson put up 17, Logan Thomas got you 10, Devontae Adams got 26. And this lineup right here, I mean, I could do some math real quick. 30, 40, 55, 75, 90, 107, 117, 127, 37, 143, and another 1853. So 100 about this lineup right here easily puts up 160-ish, maybe 163 points. It cashes everywhere. Beautiful lineup. What do the emojis do? Here's one of the beautiful things about the Domination Station. When you click it, you could see what they do. They give either a 5%, 10%, or 15% deduction to the projection, or they increase the projection 5%, 10%, 15%. It just raises or lowers the projection, and it's just a faster way of doing it than typing a new projection in over here. You could just type it in. If you don't want this guy, you could just type in and lower him to the point. But that's what it does. It's a projection boost or diminishment. But again, note that the top lineup that it kicked out put up about 162 points. And the beautiful thing was, again, it was a very chalky lineup. Again, we didn't have Jones properly ownership projected because that news came late. But all in all, this was pretty chalky, high-owned guys, pretty much what you want to see in a tournament lineup. Here's another version with Mahomes where you went down to Washington. Probably didn't hurt you that much, but I'm not sure if this one, the Mahomes versions, necessarily would have cashed. I mean, here's a Mahomes-Henry version, again with Thielen and Ridley. I'm really not sure what these would have done. I don't think I would have done that. All right, let's get to showing my cash lineup here. So where did I go wrong? Very simple. Very simple mistake. I'm going to say two. But the main one was Zeke Elliott over Montgomery. I had a choice to make, and I should have, it was last second. I had this idea that Zeke Elliott was going to be a good play. His team was finally winning. But, in Montgomery, maybe he's kind of like bad chalk. Here's the thing. You have a decision to make between a $6,500 or a $6,600 player in cash. You have to default to the chalkboard and say, all right, this guy's going to be 17%. This guy's going to be 7. You got to go with the higher own. So easy, stupid mistake. Cost me in my cash lineup personally this week. The difference was 20 fantasy points. And the difference was 20 fantasy points, 136 to 156. And that would have been enough to straddle the cash line everywhere. Now, again, so many of you DM me your winning cash plays again this week. Yeah, my original, you know what I could show you my original lineup. You know what I had? I had Eckler, Montgomery, and I did not use McKissick. So making the adjustment really hurt me too. It fucked up my shit. And a lot of times scrambling was a mistake. I had Eckler, my original cash lineup that I had going into Sunday that I put together Saturday night. It was just Eckler and Montgomery. And that combination was smash, and it would have cashed everywhere, no problem. The rest of the lineup was pretty much the same. I think I was at Akins over here because I had to save a little bit more money, but would have smashed everywhere, no problem. Again, Rodgers. And I actually kept that lineup on, and I made it, and I did play it, and I actually played it in a couple of head-to-heads just to see because I never like to completely eliminate a lineup, but it doesn't matter. The point is that one was the one that I played was a dud, and a lot of it just happened to do with just pivoting last second, but really the tools were right there. And like I said, the top lineup off the Dom cashes easily. So yeah, I mean, Robert, so he put this post. I remember you wrote something. Make your playlist, chalkboard, players not on the list, put in DS, would have cashed in all my games if I had just played. So there you go. The top DS line, I changed my lineup to my own after news and lost all cash games. So changing lineups around, trying to do our own thing a little bit too much. And again, veering off from the chalkboard, which is almost always a mistake. There are spots where you can do it, and we need to focus a little bit more on that. Like a J.D. McKissick. Like I said, I never liked him. I always thought he was bad chalk. I never thought he had any upside, but sometimes we feel forced to play these guys because the value's there. Fuck that. Because most of my tournament lineups and my 3-max, all of them were, I didn't play them in any of them, and all of them were better than my cash lineup. So the lesson learned was really when you know somebody's really got no upside, why bother? Don't even bother. All right, I want to show you guys a tool I use for 2 reasons. Both to explain expectation in tournaments. Somebody's asking about 20 max and whatever. And this week, I talked about it a little bit on the DFS Army, on my Players Club podcast. I'd gotten a question about someone who had been max multi-entering and couldn't understand. And guys, this is really, really important. So I'm glad you're still here with me for this part. Somebody had asked, "Hey, I've been using your tools, mass multi-entering, and I'm losing 20, 30% of my entries every time. What am I doing wrong? Your tools suck. What the hell's going on here? I mass entered and I lost money." Well, this usually comes from somebody who subscribed to the site within a few weeks, but I get that sort of question a lot from people. And this is something we've been focused on all year, explaining that you must build your DFS around cash games and very, very small tournaments. A lot of people still don't listen. So the ones of you who are watching this, who are hanging out with me now, who actually give a shit about being better at DFS, I'm going to show you both a tool I use to help improve my game, but also I'm going to demonstrate to you what you should expect when you mass multi-enter a tournament. Okay, so what I'm looking at here is a tool on Fantasy Labs called the Contest Dashboard, where after contests are over, you can pretty much see what users did, what their lineups were. You can basically explore lineups from people. And our own Bobby Wow, like anybody who, everybody who was in the contest, even me, find me. So I don't generally mass multi-enter the Millie Maker, but if I'm in there, you can find it. Didn't do well. How about our own Bobby Wow? Now, there's a point to what I'm doing. There he is, always building 150, losing money. So you're like, hey, what the fuck is going on? Bobby Wow lost money. Are we listening to him? Right? Why do we listen to Kevin? Now I'm going to show you something to explain what I mean by you should expect to lose money when you mass multi-enter, because this is one of the biggest falsehoods I think that people have when they're looking at mass multi-entry. People, I get it on social media all the time. Hey, if I had enough money, and I'm going to do the social media voice here for a second. If I had enough money to put in, rich people, if I had enough money to put in 150 lineups, of course I'm going to make money. Oh, really? Oh, really? You are? Wow. So let's take a look at everybody who put in 150 lineups. Okay? Everybody who put in 150 lineups in the Millie Maker. Let's see how many of them made money. Okay? Let's see how many of them made money. Okay, this is the Millie Maker DraftKings sorted by people who entered 150 lineups. Okay, first page, each page here looks to be about 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 10 records. And you can see here the first page shows 1, 2, 3, 4 profitable people and 6 non-profitable. But wait, it gets worse. Let's continue to scrolling. Here's the next page, only 1. Here's the next page, no one. Here's the next page, only 1. There's one person who made a couple of bucks. Are you getting the point yet? Look at me scrolling through all of the 150. What they all lost money. Look at this. Let's go to page 2. Let's continue. Okay, more money losing, more money losing, more money losing, more money losing. Look at it. Are you seeing this? More money losing, more. These guys are losing all of their entry fees, a lot of them. 2,400. The great Chipotle addict. I believe this is a free tool, guys. I don't want to promote anything that you got to pay for outside of DFS Army. I believe the contest dashboard is something free that you could look at every week. Okay? So, wait, I haven't even shown you what I use this for. The first thing I'm doing is demo. Here's the great Chipotle addict. He's so good. He wins everything. Oh, my God. Is he? 2,400. It was $3K to max enter this. That means he cashed in very few lineups. 23. Look at most people in a contest that costs $3,000 to enter are losing almost the full amount. This guy lost every single lineup. What the fuck did he do? Oh, he just played one lineup. This is the dumbest shit. So that fucking guy played one lineup in the Millie Maker. He probably forgot to adjust his lineups. No one does this. This is just a guy who forgot. He played, Mahomes, Gallup, Hill, Logan Thomas, Kelsey, Perriman, McKissick. Not even a very good lineup. So he lost $3,000. That the full amount. Here's beef and ribs. Break ribs. He lost all his money. A lot of these people are doing very stupid things. I don't understand what this is. So the first number is number of lineups created. These are the number of unique lineups created. Looks like this guy made one lineup too. I mean, these are just people who weren't able to modify their lineups, or they're very, very stupid. One or the other. I'm assuming, for my own mental sanity, I'm assuming that these guys just were not able to get their edits in, because entering one lineup over and over in the Millie Maker is like the dumbest thing that anybody could ever do. But my point is this. Look at all of the losing. 95% of people who put money in it, all of the one, Matt, and the only person who really made any money is this Forsaken, and he didn't make that much. All things considered, he didn't win the damn thing. Had a good lineup in there. He popped one lineup probably in the top 10. So my point is this. When you mass multi-enter, let me check the slant. I'm going to give you another contest. When you mass multi-enter, here's the slant. When you mass multi-enter, you should expect to lose. Most of the people who are mass multi-entering are losing money. Now, here's a better version of a contest. Now, the Millie Maker is a shit contest, right? It is designed to suck the money out of your pocket. Some smash, of course they do that. Why would you enter if no one ever smashes? The idea is you're playing to win it. But you have to understand that when you do this, when you mass multi-enter, you're in it to win, to take first place. But when you don't take first place, you're probably going to lose a lot of money. So that's really important. Now, that was the Millie Maker, which is very top heavy, and it's almost impossible to profit. I've told you guys this for years. I've said it over and over. I've made videos and videos and videos about it. It's almost impossible to profit in a contest like that. Now, this is the slant, which is a much, much better format, and the one that I like to play when I mass multi-enter. Now, I'm going to show you this one as well, because it's important to note that even in this, a much better contest with a better structure, you're going to see that the vast majority of people who put in 150 lineups lost money. Now, there are some winners, but the vast majority lost money. Here's Atlanta. He did really well. Let's see what he did. Loaded up on Dallas defense, 80%. I love that. Went crazy on Tua. Went fucking crazy on Tua. Who would have thought that? And even with all this Braxton Berrios, and even with all this crappy Duke Johnson, and even with all this terrible Devontae Parker, even with all of that, because he had that much Tua, he probably found a lineup with Tua and Gesicki, and let's see where's tight end. I'm sure he's got some Gesicki in here. There it is, and he's over the field, and that combination probably did a lot of help. So I'll show you how to use this tool in a second, but I want to go through it again to show you. Slightly better. Here's another guy who did really well. Let's see what he did. Loaded up on, he did not. So his maximum exposure, Devontae Adams, but he did a much more balanced. I'll go through this in a minute. A much more balanced exposure, had a lot of gauge, and he ends up making money, but making great money. This person probably came in second in this contest or third. Like his best lineup probably finished in the top 2 or 3. So take a look at how many other people that lost. Now you're looking at these numbers saying, well, that's not that much. Well, how much was this contest to max enter? It's $9. So it's $1,350 to max. So these guys are losing about half of their entry fees. This guy even more. So you're seeing a lot of people. Look at the ratio of losers to winners. Again, there's a winner, but look at the ratio here. Way more losing. Way more. Keep going. Look, I mean, it's 90% of the people who are entering this that are losing. There's the winner. This guy took it down. Let's see what he did in a minute. But again, losing. All of these losers. So what are you doing? You're trying to be this guy who takes it down. He won it. Let's see what he did. Ron Jones Jr. chalk loaded up. Austin Eckler, we liked him. Aaron Rodgers went crazy. Derrick Henry above the field. You can check. All right, so let me go to the second part of this. The first part of this was to explain to everybody that when you mass multi-enter and you put in 150 lineups in a contest, you should expect to lose money. Look at that. You're going to beat these odds? You're going to beat this? Look at all the red. Look at all the red on the screen. Most people lose money mass multi-entering. It's just the nature of how it's done. So now you're thinking, oh, that's 20. That's 150. What about when I make 20? It's the same exact thing. When you're mass entering any tournament like this, that's top heavy, the expectation is every lineup you should expect to be losing money. They are minus EV unless you win. You got to take it down. So people wonder, why do I lose money in DFS? I must suck. Maybe I'm not good at it. Maybe I don't know what I'm doing. No, you're entering contests that most people are going to lose. That's just the nature of it. Look how many people here. Look at this. Okay? Look at this. Now I'm going to show you. All right. So now that we've established that, and this is not a top heavy. This contest is not top heavy. So all of these people are still losing money, even in the slant. They're all losing money. 95% of these mass multi-enters are losing money. Chipotle addict, you saw him. He's the best, right? He's fucking number 1 player. Guess what? There's more. Number 1 player in the world, right? Number 1 guy. He lost half of his money. More. 800. He lost 60% of his entry fees. 60%. It's the top guy, right? The top player. So it's really, really, and the slant is good, Jay. This is the best structure there is. And even still, you're losing most of your money. See who else is in here. There he is. Papa Gates. He lost most of his money, right? You're like, oh, the number one guy, one of the best tournament players in the world. He lost most of his money. Does this mean he sucks? How about the best tournament player? Bobby Wow doesn't even mess. He doesn't even mess with the slant. He goes right for the Millie Maker. But the point is, how about my boy? Statsational? What did he do? Let's see what he did. Study his shit. He lost half his fucking money too. Okay, this is one of the best tournament players, part of DFS Army. So I'm explaining all this. Now, the second part of what I wanted to show you on this tool was you can study what players do to understand what good approaches are to DFS. Now, this allows you to really dive in. You can look at players. Like I know. I don't need to ask, JBC what he does. We talk on the wild, we talk on our podcast every week. Like, I know what he's doing. But we can look at other players. Let me go back to the Millie Maker. The Millie Maker here. I want to show you our own Bobby Wow, and I want to show you what he does because I know Bobby Wow. I know what he's going to do, but I want to see it. I want to see it in front of my eyes here. So let's take a look at Bobby's entry. Now, this was not a winning day. Okay. But the big thing we're going to see from him is a lot of leverage against the chalk. Bobby does not like to play the chalk at all. So what I did here was I sorted by leverage. And what that means is how different his exposure to a particular player is compared to the field. So where's the player I want to actually find? I believe that he may have just full faded Davante Adams, like no exposure. Of course, it's why the big reason people lose is they don't understand contest selection. They don't understand what they're doing. They're just putting lineups in these tournaments and thinking you could win. But all the time, you can't. They're only 20% people cash, and the 20% that cash only cash 1.5x. How the fuck are you going to beat those odds? When you enter these tournaments, you have to win them to be profitable. Occasionally, if you can't win them, you will never be profitable. So again, if you're not the type of person that's going to have a crazy ass Tua lineup in a tournament and like to Gesicki and stay completely off cash, don't enter those. Go in the 100, 200, 300 person tournaments where you don't have to get as silly. I can't stress it enough. You have to understand your style as a player. But look at what Bobby Wow does. He sees chalk and he fades it. I don't believe he played any Davante Adams. Let's take a look. Filter by position. Hold on. Okay, no, he did play Adams, but he played him at the field. I don't even know what I just did. Yeah, so we could take a look at, the WR position. No, I like it. I don't like this filter by position. Now I don't know what the hell I did. I don't know. I'm not going to go through it right here. The point is, because I just screwed this all up, let me go right back to this because I screwed that up before. Yeah, I want to compare exposures. So you can compare exposures across different players. You can, I don't like that. Let's take a look at exposures again. I don't know what I did here. Of course, live on the air, but 10% all points, all. Why isn't this showing me Bobby Wow? Okay, here we go. Anyway, the big point of what I'm trying to make here. There we go. Yeah, here we go. Okay, we're back to what it is. You can see what the player did See what leverage he got against the field. So Bobby went all in, heavy exposure, Michael Thomas, who I like this week a lot. So good play. He went heavy on Calvin Ridley, low-owned players. Very heavy on Allen Robinson, who smashed 6%. Very heavy on Ron Jones, who was only 13% by the field, which is very low. Very heavy on low-owned Wayne Gallman. Went way over the field on J.D. McKissick. Probably wants that one back. Lots of Travis Kelce. Way too much DeAndre Washington, Robinson. So he's taking stands against low ownership spots in the field. He went 20% Trubisky as a, so you could see what happened here. Allen Robinson, 52%. If you're doing that, you might as well get some Mitch Trubisky in there. Had a lot of Russell Gage. So a lot of leverage against the field to Bobby's approach to DFS. And like I said, from what I saw, he didn't play Davante Adams at all. So the first thing that Bobby does is when he sees wide receiver chalk, he runs away from it. I mean, if you haven't watched the Queen's Gambit, you should know already, but I think a little bit of little THC works as well. Gets you in the right. You got to get the mind one. You got to get the indica or the sativa, whichever one fucks with your brain, makes you think. Whatever works for you, Jordan. Whatever drug works for you. So one of the things I do, my greater point is what I do at the end of every contest is I go, all right, let me go back. Let me go to this tool. Let me sort by the users. Oh, look at this guy. He won $1 million. The guy who won the $1 million only put in 4 lineups. How do you like that? By the way, that's another fallacy that you can't win putting in just 4 lineups. What did he do? He loaded up on AJ Brown, DeAndre Washington in all 4. 3 of the 4. Mike Gesicki. Let's see if Tua, who and David Carr. I mean, what a strange lineup. But he Derek Carr. He rolled with Derek Carr, Robinson, Sammy Watkins did fine, Derrick Henry, Montgomery. So he basically played a lineup where he could squeeze in Henry, got Montgomery in there, Seattle defense, which was good. AJ Brown, he must have just liked. He was low owned. He ended up smashing. Trying to figure out which one of these would have won it. Dallas defense was great, obviously. Aaron Rodgers was fine. Keenan Allen, Davante Adams, he really interesting. But hey, how do you like that? The winner put in 4 lineups. M. Benson, another big winner, 1 lineup. DeCuz, our own DFS Army specialist, 1 lineup. Simon Templar, look at you, man. You guys are on the list. 1 lineup. So the best mass multi-entry guy, so all of these people who were big winners only put in 1 lineup. The best mass multi-entry guys were Forsaken, and let's see what Forsaken did. So you want to kind of learn, all right, what's this guy's approach? He used 102 different players. He got negative leverage on the field on a few different spots here. Perriman, Taylor. I think one of the things I learned from this is how beatable MME probably still is, because there's still way too much chalk being played in these contests. And let me show you a little bit. But this guy who won, he won some money. Forsaken, he was like the best of the 150 entry people. He went a little under on Perriman, way too low on some spots. Dallas defense, he went under. So he faded a lot of chalk. Let's see where he got positive leverage. So this is negative leverage. In other words, the field is going to be a certain weight on a player. You're either going to go above or below. That's how you have to look at your portfolio of players when you're mass multi-entering. He leveraged very, very much heavily on Davante Adams. He was way over on Duke Johnson. I mean, this guy made money. He was over on Duke Johnson. This is what I'm saying. He was over on J.D. McKissick, who was a very bad tournament play. So you can make money in these even by kind of having some weird-ass fucking ownerships. I want to go back to Bobby Wow. He's so good at these. Take a look at JBC. We could take a look at Bobby Wow. The point of this isn't to look at individual people's lineups. This is for you to do. You should really be studying this. What are the best players doing? They're leveraging the field. You need to learn to not be scared to leverage the field in tournaments if you want to have a chance to take one down. Look at the leverage on Allen Robinson, who smashed. Look at this leverage on Ron Jones Jr., who we thought was in a great spot. He went crazy on Wayne Gallman. If Gallman goes off, he's crushing. So you might say, well, a lot of these plays didn't work. It doesn't matter. I'm just looking for the technique. I want to, okay, what's he doing? What's the approach? What is a winning player doing? Yeah, the Millie Maker winner made a very weird lineup, but it worked. I'm not going to sit here and criticize it. He went Carr, Aguilar. Okay. Brown, he was all over. Robinson, he was all over. Gesicki, he was all over. Eifert in the flex was crazy, but that's what I'm saying. Like, sometimes it's a crazy. I would have seen this lineup and been like, what the fuck are you doing? But, it worked, and that's a beautiful thing. Yeah, I had Eifert in my cash lineup as well. I showed you. It was another one of my. I don't even mind the Eifert move. My biggest miss was just using Zeke over Montgomery, and I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. Like, in hindsight, you watch Zeke play, he's got no life in his legs. I will never play him again this season. His legs are just dead. He doesn't have the breakaway burst. He didn't have it last year either. He was getting there with volume. He was just getting there, smashing away at volume. He's like Todd Gurley out there. Fuck that. Never again. He will not be in one of my lineups ever again this season. And I hope they give him a showdown so I could fade his ass. He's just got dead legs out there. He's got no breakaway speed, no burst whatsoever. I don't like to judge running backs, but he's got no burst whatsoever. He's just dead legged. Not good. Anyway, that's going to do it for the review, guys. I'm going to be back a little bit later. I just wanted to show you this tool. Again, it's on Fantasy Labs. It's called the Contest Dashboard. And again, I believe it is a free tool to use. So I suggest checking this out. People ask me all the time, how do I know what exposures to put on players? There's no formula for it. You got to just choose it. You got to choose to go over the field. We have ownership projections at DFS Army. You know what, quote, the field is. So what you're choosing to do is how much leverage do you want? How do you decide that? You got to come up with it. I don't want to be the one to tell you fade Davante Adams in the best spot of the year. I don't want to be the one. I'm not going to tell you that, because if I do, you're going to, and when I'm wrong, you're going to say, fuck you, this guy sucks, I'm out of here. So I'm not going to do that. But I will tell you that the sharpest players know to fade the chalk a lot. Even chalk in really, really good spots, especially chalk, because you got to be willing to lose it all. I'm going to try to find, like I said, you look at sharp players, they're leveraging the field. Awesemo, for example, he's really, really into projections and really trusting them. Duke Johnson was popping in the projections. He's going to play him. He's like all about the numbers. Tua was actually popping in the projections too, but that was a crazy good play. But all about the projections. Getting leverage. Here's Chipotle. Lost most of his money. He went crazy on Braxton Berrios. Didn't work out. Went over the field on chalk Davante Adams. Played the comeback with Marvin Jones. Just really loaded up on the Packers game. And, that came back and didn't work out. A few other spots didn't work out for him. So he lost most of his entry fees here. But you could see he's leveraging the field very, very intensely on a few different players, about 91 total players. So again, this is something you should be doing after each slate if you're a mass multi-entering person. Study what the pros did. Study what the best player, JBC, that's fucking sensational. So study what the pros do. What is he doing? I know what his approach is. He likes to be around the field. He does a lot of lineups. So, but there are some definite leverage spots going on here as well. There are some definite fades going on. Study what they do. I don't know why I say none of the experts, man. I mentioned KJ Hamler, I don't know, 10 times over the course of this week. But Hamler wasn't in a special situation. People kept asking me, who is the pivot off of Berrios? And I said, it's Hamler. He's the other guy. So, I mean, one guy was mentioning him at the very least. But, you know, he wasn't in a special spot. Hamler, you know, they had Patrick and they had all the other pieces. We didn't know Fant was going to get hurt, get sick. That really is what helped Hamler the most, I think. Anyway, that'll do it for the weekend review. This was way longer than I normally do because I wanted to introduce you to sort of a study technique. We've talked about Queen's Gambit and obsessing over our obsessions, and this is another way to do it. You want to go back each week and look at what the pros did, what the best players did, win, lose. First of all, to understand about winning and losing and how that happens, not just that's to everybody. Until you win a tournament, you're losing money almost every time you enter one. That's really important. We want to pace ourselves and judge ourselves based off of our cash games. And finally, where did I mention Hamler? I mentioned it every single time somebody asked me who would the pivot be off of Braxton Berrios. So it would have been in chat. It was just every time anybody asked it, I said the only other 3K player I've got that's interesting is KJ Hamler. So that was just, I don't remember. But I didn't play him, so whatever. I just mentioned him. I kept saying, that's your, who can I pivot off of Berrios? It was Hamler. He was the only other 3K. But I didn't think he was going to do what he did. I wish I played him. All right, so a little bit more in-depth weekend review this week. Learning more about what works, what doesn't work, and what to expect when we mass multi-enter tournaments. Again, this is always designed to push you to play more cash games and more single-entry type games and win more. I want you to win. Coming up in about an hour or so, I will do the Where My Turds At video breaking down tonight's Baltimore versus Cleveland game for DFS Army VIPs. And it's really, really important to note, I hate Baltimore games and showdowns. They're extremely difficult to predict for just a plethora of reasons, both the way their defense plays and also the way their offense is so ridiculous. So this is not an easy one tonight. Last night, I actually, on the Where My Turds At show, I put together a cash lineup for DraftKings. I actually wound up playing it. The one I put together that fit so nicely like a little glove. It cashed everywhere. So we'll try to figure something like that out for tonight. But I do not like cash games with Baltimore, and both teams are very, very difficult. So not super excited actually about tonight's showdown, but we're going to break it down for you, and we will go from there. I hope this helps everyone. And again, congrats to everybody who smashed cash this week. I saw all of your screenshots, and I love the positive messages you guys send me in DM every single week. Obviously, the tools were there pointing us in the right direction once again. And I just have to say, the tools are right there. We have an edge. This is why I like playing on DraftKings more than FanDuel. It's such a strong edge that we have going here, because so many people are putting in really kind of poor lineups. Don't be afraid to play head-to-heads, all that good stuff. If you're not a DFS Army VIP and you're watching this, at least smash like and subscribe. Do us a solid and go sign up at DFS Army. Use my code Geek. Prices are going up like in the next 2 weeks. For those of you guys who are DFS Army subs, nothing's going to ever change for you. Don't worry about it. We don't change prices, but the price of VIP is going up massively. We're going to have to separate out some of these sports. Covering them is just becoming very intense. Some of the niche sports, so we're going to have to separate the two. We won't mess with our VIPs. You will have all the access you ever need, but for new people that are coming in, we're going to kind of set it up so that, people can do individual sports and stuff like that. So price will come down if you're just here for football or something, and it'll be a little bit higher to do VIP and access every single sport, but we'll have the individual sports. So everybody wants to come in for like an MMA or a NASCAR or something like that, it'll be a little bit less. So we're making a little adjustment. My suggestion is if you're on the fence, sign up now. NBA it started already. We're doing preseason, so get signed up now. And again, for DFS Army subscribers, I'll be back with the Where My Turds At showdown breakdown. Give me about an hour or so. All right, good luck tonight.